Defendants are terrifying people. The fact that they're in court says enough about them, unless they're innocent, of course. But in today's case, we have the most Karen and Ken-like defendants you've ever seen. First up, we have a man that goes by the name Char. He was in court for multiple charges of attempted murder and third-degree assault. He felt like he was being mistreated during his trial, so he does this.
This is a prime example of the habitual corruption and conspiracy within the Keith Conashero and Catherine K. Aloha's prosecutor's office and Judge Todd W. Eden's Kangaroo Court. I was not given a fair trial as stated in a motion for judgment of acquittal and or new trial, file stamped on March 11, 2019. Furthermore, I was given this incompetent court-appointed attorney, Keith Shigitomi, who prepared my defense with me only 19 days before my trial. 19 days he worked on my case. Now this Kangaroo Court is giving me a life sentence for me trying to protect and defend myself against the attack from three guys. In essence, treating me like a black man. And today, the reason why I'm like this is because I prepared myself to play my part in your Kangaroo Court, treating me like a black man, so today I'm going to be a black man.
Do you want to say anything further, Mr. Char?
That's about it, I guess, for now. Oh, also, I asked this Kangaroo Court to put a stay on my sentencing pending my appeals. And who's going to do my appeal?
Not only did his attorney resign from the case after the stunt he pulled, but the judge had this to say to him as well.
This was a case that you incited, that you provoked, that you almost killed an innocent motorist.
No, it didn't happen that way.
You cut off, the evidence showed, Mr.
There was
Char,
no evidence on my part.
Mr.
My lawyer
Char,
failed to put in my video. He put no evidence on my behalf. None of my
Char,
evidence
the
was.
evidence showed,
None of my evidence was submitted.
Mr. Char, listen up.
Judge Todd Eden sentenced Char to life with the possibility of parole, 5 years for the second count and 1 year for the third, all to run concurrently. There are still issues of restitution, which he will be ordered to pay, but he'll have to have yet another attorney to help with those issues.
Up next, we have the biggest Ken of the courtroom. He goes by the name Daryl Brooks. Not only was he representing himself, he was one of the most difficult defendants Judge Jennifer had ever dealt with.
I provided you yesterday as a courtesy with a copy of my oaths of office. My name is on that as well.
They were not certified.
You are attempting to disrupt with asking questions like this.
I am not.
I realize it may very well be related to your claim to be a sovereign citizen and disputing the
claim to be sovereign. That's correct.
jurisdiction of this court, but these are not questions this court is obligated to answer.
I would like to correct the record and say that I am sovereign.
All right, you believe you're sovereign, the record is corrected. So, Mr. Brooks, we're getting really close for you crossing the line.
Really close to crossing
Being
the line,
removed
Your
from the
Honor.
courtment for continued interruptions.
I did not
want you
consent to
here.
that, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks, you haven't let me get in one sentence this morning.
I haven't.
It is only, it's 8:57. I want you to be here. Certainly my preference is for you to be here to participate fully, but you do not have the right to disrupt the proper administration. I demand dignity, order, and decorum. You have been provided with the copy of SCR Chapter 62 that lists the responsibilities that myself, the attorneys in this courtroom, the litigants, it even applies, as you can see if you read it, applies to witnesses, jurors, those in attendance. Everyone here has been respectful other than you throughout these proceedings.
I object to that respectfully. I have not been disruptive.
But Judge Jennifer does not let anyone push her around, so she does this.
Whether there are assessment for the charges
Mr. Brooks,
in her possession.
no one's going to be answering these questions, okay? I'm not requiring the state to do that. I'm advising you to stop asking those questions. It will be considered an he's interrupted. Take him to the next courtroom. I'll make more findings when he is in the courtroom next door, and I can do that without an interruption.
Or agree to a estoppel, and I will move the court again.
Currently, you are not muted. All right, Mr. Brooks? All right, you can mute him. All right, Mr. Brooks, you have been muted so that I can make some appropriate findings here this morning. I understand that you object. Your objection is noted. Your lack of consent is noted. As I indicated earlier, I lost track after about a dozen or so interruptions by Mr. Brooks. He continues to ask questions that I told him I would not answer.
Up next, we have the time Jesse Smollett had an outburst after he heard his sentencing.
I'm trying to consider who you are as a person, how you got here, how somehow you strayed away from your family values, you let that dark, narcissistic, selfish, and arrogant side come out, and you persisted with it for years on this case. I'm fashioning the following sentence, and here's your sentence. I'm sentencing you to 30 months felony probation, and the probation is going to be to this court. You're going to be allowed to travel wherever you want. You do not have to live in the state of Illinois. You can report by phone. I know that if you're going to try to make a living and do some of the things you do, you may have to go to other places, New York and Los Angeles. You can do those things. You will pay restitution to the city of Chicago in the amount of $120,106. You are fined $25,000, which is the maximum fine, and you will spend the first 150 days of your sentence in the Cook County Jail, and that will start today, right here, right now.
No, I would just like to say to Your Honor that I am not suicidal. That's what I would like to say.
Okay.
I am not suicidal.
Okay.
I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I am not suicidal. If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this. And I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that. I respect you, Your Honor. I respect your decision. Jail time, I am not suicidal.
Okay. Mr. Uche, let me inquire, are there any post-sentencing motions you care to present? Court is adjourned.
I am not suicidal. I am not suicidal. And I am innocent. I could have said that I was guilty a long time ago.
Now for the time a defendant was receiving his sentencing for robbing the ex-NFL wide receiver Joe Jurevicius, and here's how he reacted to this sentencing.
7, the kidnapping, I sentenced you to 11 years, plus 3 years for the gun. Count 8, the having a weapon while under disability, I sentenced you to 36 months. Counts 9 and 10, there are no sentences because they merged with count 5. Count 11, the disrupting public service, a felony of 4th degree, I sentence you to 12 months. The gun specifications on counts 1, 5.
Is that 43 and a half years?
I don't think there's any half. 43 straight, right?
Ooh, man. Ooh, get out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Anything further, Mr. Butler?
Judge, maybe you should,
I have no plan of counsel, but.
right.
We now have a man who goes by the name Kenneth Freeman. He was in court for murder, and this is how he took his sentencing.
do have reason to believe that competency is an issue in this case.
Well, I was going to say.
I would.
Counsel, you can go ahead.
I believe competency is an issue in this case.
I'm sure things would have gotten even more heated if they didn't tase him. Next, we have the time a defendant was representing himself. Not only was he too quiet, he was also too loud at one point.
Mr. O'Neill, you need to speak audibly so that the jury can hear what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am, I haven't begun yet. I was talking to my father. He showed you a fraudulent recording where they allege that I beat Kenyatta Barron to death. He talked about Mr. Khalil Brown, my neighbor who stayed across the street. But if Mr. Khalil Brown was a help to them proving me guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, they would have called Mr. Khalil Brown. But I called Mr. Khalil Brown to be a witness for me. And I didn't ask him to lie about one thing that he saw that night. I asked him to tell the jury exactly what he saw that night. And you have to ask yourself why that is.
Then the judge does this.
Better believe it. If you think I'm here to play around with y'all, I'm not.
All right, Mr. O'Neill, please stop using swearing language. It's not appropriate in a closing argument.
Now he played a recording that was sped up. Why didn't you play the regular recording that people can understand what the call was saying?
Objection to the defendant asking me questions, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain
I'm talking to
okay.
people.
Mr. O'Neill, listen, please just keep in mind this is not personal towards the prosecutors. Please keep your comments directed towards the evidence and the law. Thank you.
Yeah. All these objections now. I know for a fact Kenyatta Barron's recording from her phone did not record calls sped up like that.
I'm going to object now. He's talking about facts, not in evidence of what he knows.
Again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you were instructed, the closing arguments are just that. They're not the evidence or the instruction on the law. It's just what the parties believe the evidence shows or does not show. All right? Thank you.
Up next, we have the time Jeremy Christian was in court for murder. This is how he reacted after witnesses gave their statements.
We don't want you here. All your you ain't gonna be there either. You ain't gonna be there either. George 4. George 4. I should have killed you.
Jeremy Christian escorted out of the courtroom during the first day of his sentencing hearing. Moments before, this is what Demetria Hester said.
You are a waste of breath, and when you die and go to hell, I hope you rot.
The judge said he forfeited his right to be at the sentencing for the victims' impact statements, but some victims wanted Christian to hear what they had to say. And eventually, the court put him in another room with a video feed so he could listen.
You fail to realize that you tried to bring me down, tear me down, and knock a beautiful African-American, athletic student, honor student, an employee, and an entrepreneur, and you still lost. I not only survived a hate speech from a white privileged supremacist man, but I thrived, and I'll forever thrive.
You'll remember Christian was found guilty on murder charges earlier this year. He killed 2 men and injured Micah Fletcher on a Portland Max train back in 2017. Those killed were Ricky Best and Talisha Nemkai Meche.
You robbed me of one of my favorite people on this planet.
He truly was a great father. I would describe him as a brick in the field of society.
Christian is facing life in prison without parole. At minimum, he may be granted the possibility of parole after 30 years.